if you can't meet somebody where they are at, then why would they listen to you? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Right. Right. And I've been there. I've been in those dark dungeons,
Yes, me
you
too.
know, dark night of the soul. You have too, right? Let's talk about depression. Let's talk about our own
Okay.
Shutter Island experience.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, why don't you tell us your story about depression, how you came out of it?
So I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm longing for a home. I'm longing for a
All right. So I grew up depressed. Looking back now, I know that at the time I didn't know I was depressed. It was just the way it was. And it was due to the teachings of the church that I was raised in. They were very, very depressing teachings that basically everything is a tragedy. Most of the world God created just to send them to hell. There's really no hope. There's really nothing you can do except thank God that you were the elect. So I was depressed and it got very, very bad in my teenage years to the point where I was suicidal and had an attempted suicide when I was about 18. Um, Actually, it was the voice, what I believe was the voice of Jesus that stopped me because I heard a voice say to me, well, I was thinking to myself how there's nobody in the whole world that loves me, which obviously wasn't true, but you get in that frame of mind where you believe that. And I heard this voice say in my head, I love you. I died for you. So that stopped me. And I continued on and I had the spiritually transformative experience that we talked about in our last video around that same time. I came back from that, and honestly, not much in my life changed except that I had the memory of the experience and I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I still was dealing with all of the depression and the anxiety. And I also had severe, severe social anxiety and a number of other mental and emotional issues going on. But I was determined to get free from it. And I used to I remember driving my car and crying and praying and telling God, I don't care what happens to me in this life. All I want is peace and joy. I want to be free from the internal suffering. And I believe that is possible. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to just get peace and joy. And when I was 19, I ended up leaving the church that I was raised in because my friend had told me about a non-denominational charismatic church that believed that God still heals supernaturally today. And so this church had healing rooms that were opened, I believe it was Tuesday afternoon. So I actually went to the healing rooms before I ever went to a service, and I told them I was depressed and I wanted to be healed. And so they prayed for me. I went home and felt the same. I woke up the next morning and it was like I was seeing clearly for the first time. My depression was just gone and I was a completely new person. And like I look back on my childhood, I'm not one of those people that is nostalgic about my childhood. I was miserable. I don't want to go back to that. And it was like I was a new person for the first time. And so I was free of my depression for about 10 years. Life was good. It had its ups and downs, but I was happy. And then when I was 29, my husband and I went through a very difficult time where he lost his job twice and we ended up losing our house twice in the span of 3 years. And our marriage was on the rocks. And then he lost his job and then he fell and shattered his leg. So he couldn't look for a new job. And I was pregnant. We got kicked out of our house. And it was just this bad string of events. So I became depressed again during that time. And I remember thinking to myself, I got free of it once and I'm going to get free of it again. But this time I'm not going to be prayed for. This time I'm going to ask God to direct me as to how I can get free on my own. And I became convicted over a period of time that my thoughts were probably at the root of my problem. But at the time, I didn't want to go there because I thought, oh, this is too new age. It's all new age stuff to think that your thoughts can affect your life. But I just kept listening to these teachers. First, it was Joyce Meyer because she was very Christian. And then I was moving on to people like Joe Dispenza and really just listening to what they had to say. And finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this because I didn't believe it was God's will for me to stay depressed. And I wanted to be able to help people who were going through the same thing and tell them, hey, there's hope. You can get through this. You can get to the other side. There's light on the end of this other end of this tunnel. So I made a decision. I'm not going to think an unloving thought about myself, about anybody else in my life, or about any situation in my life. I'm just going to be really, really hardcore on watching my thoughts, and it's going to be all about love because God is love, and love is what heals. And so I started doing this, and it took 4 days before my depression was completely gone. I was completely free. I was experiencing more bliss and joy and excitement about life. I've had purpose. The whole world was just different to me. I was so happy. I felt like God was an infinite ocean of love within me and surrounding me. So I'm starting to experience for the first time in this world what I experienced in my NDE life experience. It's starting to become a reality here. And so ever since then, it's just been, a journey deeper and deeper into that. And obviously there's ups and downs, there's good and bad days, but depression is a state of mind that we get ourselves into. And I say that with all compassion as somebody who was depressed for 2 decades, that there is freedom, there is a way out, and it starts with finding that God within you, really, just recognizing that God is love and God is within you and tuning into that and bringing your mind in alignment with that.
Yes, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. I can relate on so many levels. Like I've been through seasons of depression myself and came out of it, recognizing the divine spark within, right? That has now, like my story, it's like it started as a spark and it was this gradual healing that took years, but it was this gradual, just infilling and realization of the reality that Christ is in me, the hope of glory, when I lost sight of that completely though, for a spell there, so my heart goes out to anybody who is depressed, and what would you say to someone, Melissa, who's depressed right now, who's in that dark state of mind? Advice.
I would say, well, first of all, there's a lot of people tend to beat themselves up and think there's something wrong with them or they shouldn't be this way. And maybe even what I just said would add to that. But there's nothing wrong with it. There's no condemnation in it. Every experience, whether positive or negative, is completely valid. And so you are allowed to feel that way, and you're allowed to experience this and walk through this for as long as you need to. But I would also encourage them that you don't have to stay depressed forever, that just keep digging in and searching for the light within you. I think the easiest way to do that is to just focus on your own heart and search for the love and the light of God within your own heart, and really anchor yourself in that, and follow where that leads you, because everybody's story is going to be different. I know some people struggle for years with it, and that's okay. It's okay. But if you want to be free of it, You absolutely can be free. And I think a lot of it starts with believing, first of all, that you can be free. And then tuning into the love of God in your own heart. Because a lot of times we're searching for God outside of us too. And I think we're searching for something outside of us to satisfy us. And that feeds into the depression as well.
I was once at a church down front, like worshiping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, why am I worshiping something out there somewhere? And then I just tuned in to the Christ within.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, I had a marvelous experience. It was
I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, it was the energy center, like this chakra right here. Up here, I'm bringing up chakra, worship. I was at church at a, Christian church, and yeah, my pineal gland chakra was just doing this tornado toroidal field energy thing that was just like, as soon as I tuned in and focused on it, it went, and it just like, I'm like filling up the whole sanctuary right now with my chakra.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, pretty amazing. But then, and then to realize you have the heart chakra, right? That represents Father, like Papa. This represents Christ, our intuition, our guidance, our wisdom, right? The mind of Christ. But Papa, that the heart chakra emanates a bigger field than even that.
Oh yeah.
Than even this. It's like, whoa, when we activate the heart chakra, here we are giving a chakra lesson. Fun.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about family, we're talking about the fact that you're a spiritual being having a temporary human experience, and so being spiritual, not religious. I mean, mm-hmm. he came to have a family, to gather the family.
When I used to when I was attending church, I used to go to a charismatic Assemblies of God church. And in the worship, it was just like the energy centers would just be lit up, even more than any other time in my life, probably, unless sometimes when I'm meditating. And I would feel this like beam of light coming down through my head, through right behind my eyes, and then hitting my heart, and then just like exploding. And then when we would do healing prayer for people, like my hands would get hot and shake and stuff like that. And so it was funny, because I'd be thinking, I wonder what people would think if they knew this was happening right now, because this is more like Eastern religion type stuff.
Yay.
But really, it's just science, because there's so many doctors now who are acknowledging that we are all energy, and the energy centers in the body are actually a real thing.
Yeah. And I don't want anybody to think that just saying the word science just stole all the magic out of it. It doesn't. This is magical, it's beautiful, and we need to remain in that childlike space of like magic, mystery, right? That not everything can be or will be understood or explainable, but just to be experienced. And that's why we had this experience, so we can become like little children, to experience it all for the first time, and everything can be magical. And that's maybe why we might have another incarnation, to do it all again, to have another forgetting and remembering, because it's just so beautiful, the magic of it, the mystery. So
yeah.
Go on.
No, that's why we come here, to not know.
Yes, to be ignorant. Yay, I'm ignorant.
Why doesn't God make himself more clear? And we wake up here, we don't know who we are, or where we came from, or why we're here. Well, that's the whole point. It's the mystery.
Yeah.
Because who we truly are as spiritual beings in that other place, we have access to all knowledge. So that has to get boring.
Yeah, but I think that this is why God takes such great delight in us, his kids. Mm-hmm. And even our discovery, even our not knowing is like, oh, that's a curiosity to heaven. Like, I don't know. And just like, oh, when's he gonna get it? That's why we're the Truman Show to all of heaven. We have a cloud of many witnesses, and it's ourself, and we love ourself. We're very narcissistic. We love ourselves.
That's funny.
Indeed. It's beautiful, and just having kids yourself, what has that done for you? What kind of healing has that brought?
Oh wow. I I fully believe my kids are more enlightened than I am. Just the other day I was getting impatient, I was stressed out about something, and my daughter, she's 9, she comes up and gives me a hug. I was washing dishes and she goes, "It seems like you're stressed. I just want to give you a hug. Can I rinse dishes for you?"
Hmm.
And I was just thinking, wow, that is the heart of God. They're so much closer to the heart of God to just respond that way.
Right. I concur. I think our children have saved our lives. And I look at them as emissaries from Father's heart, volunteers, really.
Mhm.
Like, send me. I want to go save them, and our children come to save us, with, hey, this is what the Father's like, sweet and innocent and pure and childlike. May
Yeah.
we all grow more childlike, and fun and joy is the serious business of heaven, and the world is a huge adult playground, you know.
Yeah. What would you say is the role that Jesus' death specifically played for us? Because I know that I don't think either you or I would agree with the traditional penal substitutionary atonement model that he was taking the punishment and satisfying God's wrath. So how would you explain what he did?
Yeah. And as far as satisfying God's wrath, it certainly wasn't his papa's wrath. That's for darn sure. The one
Yeah.
who's perfect love, no. That's pure ideal, the one who we say, hallowed be thy name, that we revere because he's everybody's safe place. No, it wasn't that God's wrath. No, it was all of our wrath, that he was all of our rage and misunderstanding, really, our confusion and the way we lashed out in our confusion, like a little toddler throwing a tantrum. And he's like, fine, I'll take your punches. Come here and punch me if you want. And we wailed on him, until we were spent. And then we looked at our papa and we're like, no, I killed him, and it was that waking. It took that much to wake us up. It was like the spark of the awakening right there with the cross of Christ. And he was carrying all our burdens. He's like, I'll take it for you, I'll take, and who knows how it all happened exactly, but he entered into all of our darkness. He became our sin. I've been meditating on that scripture, like he who knew no sin, the sweetest, most innocent soul that all the universes have to offer, in the person of Yeshua HaMashiach. And this is why we honor his name, Jesus, the incarnation of the Father's heart. And so here, what did he do? He who knew no sin became sin, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. And so he became our darkness. He became guilty of all those crimes. He became our perpetrator. He became the one who manufactures our hell for those, for his children who have a proclivity to horror, like we all do.
Yeah.
Like if you could just manifest any reality right now, you know what? A lot of my friends have spent years manifesting dark realities because it's all they focus on. They just like, oh, and get a load of what so-and-so is doing, and World War III could break out at any moment. And look at this natural disaster. We talked about it last time we talked, right? This natural disaster that could happen. And oh no, and then this and that, and like their proclivity towards horror and fear. And so Jesus becoming sin, at the end of the day, you gotta like, do we forgive Jesus? Are we forgiving Jesus at the end of the day? Yes. He put himself in that place as our perpetrator, owning that sin, so that perpetrator, another aspect of you, it's yourself, that that we're called to forgive and release to the mercies of God. And they find redemption, they find reconciliation. They're made pure and innocent and holy, so holy and pure and innocent that no matter what deeds they did here on earth, no matter how dark it was, that now they're safe, considered safe with the children of heaven. They're not going to rape and torture anybody because they've been rendered so innocent and pure by the power of the cross. You know, that's what it means to me. And for the longest time, I wondered, is Jesus still carrying some of that darkness? You know, as it's playing out in real time here, you know, because he said it is finished. So outside of time and space, the deed's done. The gospel's been written. He's died and he rose again. What? He rose again for our justification, right? And then he ascended, the first fruits of all that shall rise from the dead. That's us. We're all dead in a sense, in this separated mindset, right? From the love of the Papa. If we're not experiencing the absolute bliss, any step lower than absolute bliss of relationship with the purity and holiness and love, infinite love of the Father, any step less is a form of hell, wouldn't you say? You know, and so my thought was, well, is Jesus still in hell? It seems like a lot of us are. Is he still in hell because we are? And outside of time and space, I would say no. In the eternity of the gospel message, no. Because he rose again and he ascended to the Father. So that he couldn't be any higher or closer to Papa than he is. And he brought us with him. He brought us all with him. It was as if he was saying, I'm not going without you. And so it's a guarantee that you went. It's ultimate reconciliation. It's a guarantee. The gospel message is a guarantee of ultimate reconciliation at the end of the day. Yeah. When you consider the full weight of the gospel.
So I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm longing for the longing. I'm longing